Okay. I recently posted a video on my Facebook page in Hebrew. Um, that was very important to me, and I was speaking to a good friend um, who pointed out that it would be beneficial if I said these words in English as well. And many of my friends don't speak Hebrew, and basically this, I guess what is turning into an important event for me is going unnoticed by them. Um, so I'd like to tell a little bit of my story, and many of my friends know my story but don't really know the story. And it's not a fun story, and I usually tell it lightly and quite comically, and in doing so, I imagine I protect myself and probably my listeners, whoever they happen to be at that unlucky moment or lucky moment. So the background for this story is that I grew up in Jerusalem in Israel, um, to a highly academic bilingual family. And when I was 18, I joined the army and volunteered for special forces and served in a place where we did lovely things for our country and lovely things for our country as well. And in retrospect, probably the wrong place for a sensitive person to be. And as all Israelis, I got out of the army and went traveling abroad. I'd been a very good kid. Barely drank alcohol. Didn't even know what drugs were. Um, yet. Uh, and in South America, I started experimenting a little bit with marijuana, not on an extensive scale. Came back to Israel, spent some time there, a few months, and decided to go study veterinary medicine in Hungary. And I went to Hungary to live alone as a 23-year-old, ready to conquer the world. And very quickly understood what a grave error of judgment I had made. Uh, this place was very cold on every level, and I am a warm guy on most levels. And I was suffering greatly. And I basically went into what would be my first noticeable major depression, with what I know now are short periods of hypomania that saved my life, I guess. Saved me from drowning completely. Um, and I started using marijuana on a regular basis, on a daily basis. Very strong marijuana that was smuggled to Hungary from Amsterdam. And I started getting a lot of tattoos and finding a meditative uh, spot within that process, which again I think probably taught me how to take pain. That's for sure important. And started experimenting with more serious drugs like psychedelic mushrooms, cocaine, speed. Um, Again, was doing it wisely as I saw it. Once every 6 months, I would try something. I still think that's a lovely drug regime for beginners. And in the middle of my fourth year, I'd just broken up from a long relationship with a woman I loved very much. And I just started my biggest tattoo project to date on my back. And during some of the sessions, we would take cocaine to reduce the pain. And cocaine was a drug that always felt to me like the wrong drug to take. Chemicals never seemed to me like the right ones. It would put me out of sync. And I guess alone, without someone at my side, I slipped into the deepest depression I'd slipped into to date. I was almost 27 years old. And I was in the middle of an exam period. It was the middle of winter, which means very cold and very dark. And I could see that I'm not going to make it. But I pushed on. There was no other choice, really. I thought that's the way I saw it. And I failed a very big and important exam that in my eyes did not enable me to carry on for the year. And at that point, I decided to put a stop and go home. And with only good intentions, of course, but I was convinced by my family to retake this exam. I had a chance to take it again. And I didn't feel that I could take another blow, but again, they were far away overseas and weren't seeing what I was seeing, and I took the exam again and failed it again. And that was something my ego wasn't prepared to take. And my family said, okay, you know what, you were right, you need a rest, come and visit. And I said, fuck you very much. I'm going to Italy to ski, and from there to Amsterdam with two friends. And we arrived in Amsterdam and went on a 7-day fear and loathing in Las Vegas on mushrooms and cocaine and weed and alcohol. And when I returned to Hungary for the next few weeks, I really saw that I was not studying. I was hardly going to anything. I didn't really care about anything. And at that point, I did go home to Israel. And I think the relief of being at home, being safe, or so I thought, and being warm, catapulted me into my first manic attack. And after 2 weeks, I went back to Hungary because that's when I was scheduled to go. My parents had already had some alarm bells, or had completely had alarm bells. I'm not really sure. I had no alarm bells yet. And I basically arrived in Hungary in a full-blown manic attack. I was not sleeping. I wasn't eating. I was smoking a lot of weed. I was getting into very, very, very strange situations, and I had no clue what was going on. And all of my friends could see that something was wrong, but none of us had any clue what was going on. And a certain dialogue started developing with Israel, and I myself contacted a friend who helped me get to Israel in the end, and from that point on, basically for the next 15 years, no, 12 years, began a struggle between me and the system. Not yet the system, but my family, in a belief that a pharmaceutical approach is the only approach that works, meaning medication is the only approach that works. And in acute mania, which I've had 4 of, I should be committed. And I was a 26-year-old guy, tired, confused, who had to now with fight a war with no energy. And I fought 3 of those in one, at a great cost to everyone involved. And in my 4th manic attack, which was started the end of April or the beginning of April 2014, I lost this battle, and I was committed to the closed ward of the psychiatric hospital in Jerusalem, the county one, or whatever they call it. And that is actually the story I really would like to talk about. On the day that I was committed, I went down to my parents' house in my mind, thinking that okay. At this point, I had gone more deeply into the psychosis than at any other point in my manic attacks. During the years, I'd been going opposite the system. I'd been thinking, okay, I'm fucked with this thing, and I'm gonna learn to control it. I cannot take this deadening poison you want to give me. And I wasn't managing. I'm not trying to say that I was, although by my calculation I was managing about 90% of the time. But maybe it's a quantity quality kind of question, if any at all. And I am imagining already that I'm in a different world, and I'm going there to say, look, I'm tired. The police had been chasing me for the past week in all sorts of places, guided to me, and I was tired of it. I'm not a criminal and did not enjoy the extra attention. I don't like, yeah. And I'm in Jerusalem at my parents' house, which, thank the Lord, I guess they are not. And I'm sitting there full of energy, not knowing what to do. And I'm smoking a joint. And two police guys, the police cops, passed by in an unmarked car, which I mark in a millisecond. And they passed twice because they're looking at me. I don't look too good. I'm thin. I'm tattooed. I look out of place in that neighborhood. And I'm starting to not like the extra attention again. I've had too much of it because of my tattoos. And the second time they drive by, I approach the car and we start a discussion. And at one point, they get out of the car and I admit to having marijuana. Now, I'd been taken in a previous mania for marijuana possession, and it's very clear to me that it is a minor offense that nothing can be done about. B, I am a full-blown manic person, and the fact that I'm a bit high and in possession of weed is irrelevant. And it worked the last time, and I know it's going to work this time. And very important, I'm fully blown crazy, but not fully blown stupid. And I'm running this show as far as I understand. Of course, I'm not running anything, but I'm sure as hell not scared of a cop. And they take me in, and it's a very weird arrest with more cops, and strange. Lovely, by the way. Very important for me to say that they were kind and courteous and gentle. And they take me to the interrogation room, and they tell me that if I tell them where the weed is from, they'll release me. And I know they have to release me anyway, and I don't want to tell them where it's from, and I don't. And they do good cop, bad cop, and all sorts of stuff, which anyway just passes the time, and I stick to ignoring it. And then my parents arrive, and the scene gets even worse. For me, for them, I'm sure, I know. And what happens every time I'm arrested, because this was the third time I was arrested for not doing anything, I have to stress, is that at one point I get tired of the game and I say, I want to be examined by a county shrink, please. Now, two things happened. A, they are under the impression that I'm not willing to be examined by a county shrink and therefore holding me at the station. And the moment I demand it, they must agree. Second of all, in my first manic attack, when I thought they were going for the same story, my shrink at the time, who was a lovely, lovely guy who spoke crazy pretty well, said all you have to do is stress that you are not dangerous to yourself or to others. That's the only grounds for forcefully committing. And that is your mantra. So the cops hear me say that I want to be examined, that I have no problem with being examined, and they release me into my parents' custody. And we are driving to the county shrink in Jerusalem, and I don't even know what planet we're on. I'm not recognizing the streets. I'm very tired, and I'm in a different world altogether. Very manic, very psychotic, lost. And we arrive at the hospital, which is a beautiful, lovely village where people were massacred and then taken over by Israelis, but that's not the story. And we go into the emergency room, And when I say we, it is a anomaly in this story, or maybe it is common in other stories, which makes it even worse. But my father goes into this examination with me. It bothers me for two reasons. A, I'm 18 years old and have not been legally proven anything, motherfuckers. Why is he in the room with me? And second of all, my father is a professor, a highly regarded one in Jerusalem, and I don't need the extra weight. I think I'm fucked as it is. And the doctor is sitting in front of me, not a very intelligent guy, a lot less intelligent than he believes. And we're having the usual bullshit. And when I tire of it, I tell him that I'm not dangerous, not to myself or to others. I'm certain of it. And I'm not interested in his hospitality or menu. And I leave the room, as I'm legally allowed to do. And he and my father stay behind talking. And I come out, and my mother is in tears and looks exhausted. And my father, who had recently been unwell, doesn't look like he can take much more. And I can't take anymore. I want to rest. I need a place to lay my head down. Even if it's locked, I tell myself. And they call me back in and they say, look, your problem is with medication. And I say, that's true. And this doctor looks me in the face, straight in the eyes, and lies to my face and tells me, you can go in for 3 days, no medication. And after that, you can go out for observation. You can come in. And my dad is there, and I tell myself, it sounds like a good idea. And I agree. And I say lovey goodbye to my parents. And the nurse comes to collect me down a lovely stone path with grass and trees, a path which I would not see for several weeks. And we reach a large double metal door, a kind of fortified metal door, with very small window slits with chicken wire and glass, and an electrical switch, which reminded me of prison. And reality starts crashing in. And Manya chooses an interesting time to escape and leave you to deal with it. And we enter a corridor, another door, and I'm thinking, what the fuck is this? Alcatraz? And I'm mapping ways to escape already. And we enter another room. They take me to the nurse's station, and they are, eating their lunch and kind of. It's an everyday thing for them. It's not an everyday thing for me. And they open my bag. Now, when you're manic, I know it's true of me, and I've seen some others. You carry your world in a bag. At any given moment, I was ready to go anywhere. And my bag had my life. They take a 4-second glance at it and remove it from my possession, leaving me in my clothes, and say, okay, welcome. And close the door practically in my face. Had I not moved an inch back, it would have been in my face. And I turn around and I see the cuckoo's nest, but this cuckoo's nest is smaller and dirtier. and there are about 30 completely batshit crazy people walking around. I am the number 31, yeah. Not judging the other guests. But these guys are drooling. They're talking Yiddish, they're talking Arabic, they're talking French, and there are gangs like in prison. And you're the new guy. And as I walk in, I take 4 steps, and this young man walks up to me, chokes me, and starts yelling at the top of his voice, "Kill me, kill me, kill me." The guy must weigh 60 kilograms, very thin, barely 18. A religious has these little, whatever you call it, above the sides. And I grab his shoulders, I give him a deep hug, and I tell him, "Look, man, I'm willing to, sweetheart. I'm willing to hug you, and I'm not willing to kill you." And he continues to yell, "Kill me, kill me, kill me," and I am hearing, "Love me, love me, love me." And I give him another hug, and he completely quiets down. And we are okay, and I have time to take one breath, and this lovely guy comes off from my left and throws a punch at me or at the kid, I'm not sure. And I block the punch and grab his arm and his throat at the same time. And I tell him that if he lifts a hand at me or that kid again, I will end him. And that I would like him to get the fuck out of my radius quickly, and he does. And that's it, as far as I'm concerned. And I'm walking around in this filthy, disgusting, fluorescent lit room, lost. And the nurse walks up to me after about 20 minutes and politely asks me to follow him. And I think to myself, great, they're gonna give me a tour, explanation, I don't know. And I follow him down a corridor to a room, to a cell. Something, I would say, 5 feet by 7 feet, with a small metal bed on the floor, slightly raised above the floor, filthy mattress, no sheet, or maybe sheet, and 6 large male nurses in full readiness for something. Now, I had been shown this room before in my first examination by the county shrink, and I know they're about to tie me to the bed. And I'm faced with a horrifying prospect. And I promised myself I would never allow anyone to commit me. And I sure as hell wasn't gonna let anyone tie me to a bed, crucify me on a bed. And I look at these guys and I tell them there are only 7 of you. And the mood in the room gets a little bit worse, which is what I wanted. And I'm thinking I'm gonna be dancing through you like butter, motherfuckers. And if you make it out of it, you're not gonna know what hit you, and I'm running away. I don't want to be here. But a voice in me tells me that there's only one way to really get out of this room. And I sit down on that shitty bed and I ask them, what am I supposed to do next? And one of them tells me you need to lie down. And I lie down on my back, and I'm fully dressed. I'm with shoes. And I know what's coming, and I'm loosening myself for it. And as I lay down, I loosen myself for the coming, I don't know how long. 7 male nurses dive on me as if I just pulled out a knife. And they are struggling with me on the bed just without me struggling back or struggling at all. And they attach straps to my wrists and my ankles and strap these to the corners of the bed. And after I'm crucified on that bed, they're still sitting on me, and they're attached, and they're screwing the straps on tighter and tighter, and it's hurting me very much. And I ask them to stop because I'm not fighting, and one of them raises his voice and says, "Enough. You're hurting him and he's not struggling." And slowly they come out of this battle frenzy. Not at once. And they release the straps a little bit. They pull a blanket up to my chin. They walk out of the room, close the door, and dim the lights. Now I'm crucified to a bed. And I'm afraid to move because I don't want to feel the resistance of the straps. If I don't feel the resistance of the straps, I'm still free. And I loosen into it and I start breathing and meditating. Now I don't know how long I'm in here for. I don't know what I'm in here for. I don't know why I'm in here. And I don't know how I'm supposed to get out of here. I do know that the last time I was shown this room, I promised the county shrink in that examination that if they tie me up, I would untie myself and make them regret it. And I slip my right arm to the frame of the metal bed, and I loosen the screws and loosen out and free my right wrist under the blanket. And it calms me a little bit that I can get out of here. And I slip it back in and slip back into meditation and wait. And I don't have to wait long. Several minutes, I think. And a male nurse walks in. The lights go on suddenly with a syringe the size that I would use back in the day when I was a horse vet, and clumsily starts to try to inject my butt. And I tell him, "Look, man, I'm a vet. Do you want me to do it? It's taken forever." And I pull down my pants as much as I can with my bound wrist, and he injects me. And I lie back. He closes the light, and now I know I'm alone. Really? This time? And there's a fucking camera in the corner, which is worse. And I start meditating and I pass out. And I have a vague memory of being carried out of that room. And I wake up on a patch of synthetic grass in a caged yard, probably 500 square meters. with dry vegetation and lovely synthetic grass. And I'm lying there, and my pants are stained in my feces, urine, and semen. And everybody around me, which means about 35 people, know it and see it. And I am too confused and drug dazed to be able to do anything about it. Till a few nice patients, of course, point out that I should take a shower and alert one of the staff. Alert, I'm lying on the grass covered in piss, shit, and sperm. But alert one of the staff, and I'm allowed to shower and wear those horrible hospital pajamas, which by now I really want to just disappear. And I get my clothes back, and I'm in prison. Food is served only with spoons because some of us are violent. Showers are communal and disgusting. Toilets are communal and disgusting. You sleep in the room with at least 3 other people, usually more. I'm waking up every morning with feces and urine staining the sheets. Whatever they're injecting me with is just making it impossible for me to control my own. And there's a guy who has been here before, and he helps me change the sheets every morning and take them to the laundry secretly. And prison life begins where it's eat or be eaten alive. And all of this I have to do without laying a finger on anyone because I am not willing to be tied up again. And pretty quickly, me and one other guy are basically calling the shots there. And I have not been told for how long I'll be there. The day after I was tied up, I was courteously shown a beautiful 2-page A4 rule book for the ward, which they showed me then. You see it clearly says no, patients are not allowed physical contact. And I, A, was defending myself, and B, had not been shown that piece of paper. It would have been helpful. And I am in the hands of a male nurse who runs the ward, who is an evil bastard, a sadist, who toys with us all day in any way he can, limiting sleep, limiting food, limiting shower time, limiting rest time in outside, deciding who gets tied up and when on his fucking whims. I'm sure they would say it's not that way, but I can tell you I was there. The psychiatrist running the ward sees you for 15 minutes a week in his office. He doesn't walk the wards. His office is behind a locked door that you need to knock on for half an hour and sit outside or stand outside like a schmuck. And when it finally gets open, you have to beg to be seen, and the door is slammed in your face 5 or 6 times until you're seen. This is the shrink in a psychiatric ward, guys. Excuse me. 15 fucking minutes. A social worker who couldn't tell his ass from his elbow. And 3 21-year-old religious girls offering me rehab for marijuana. Girls that would probably get stoned from looking at a cigarette. And asking me to draw it in crayons. And to if I'm willing to interpret it, I interpreted the shit out of these ladies, not what they wanted to hear. And I'm thinking to myself this whole time, I don't know when I'm leaving, and I never get a straight answer. I ask, and it's a process, and we'll see. And days feel like years. I feel like a caged tiger. Everything is locked. My room, they lock the room after you wake up. You can't even go get stuff. They cut your hair, so you won't, God forbid, I don't know what. Give yourself a mohawk. What was I gonna do with the clippers? Refuse doctor treatment when I needed it. Several times. I hope it's documented. I asked it to be. Caused me a medical emergency due to medical negligence by their physician, which I also hope is documented. And the only way I got out of that ward was that after more than a month, before a holiday, there was a weekend where they were very overly crowded. This is an emergency room hospital, so they have to accept emergency cases. And we were 36 people in the ward that had something like 30 beds. In this weekend, they actually had people sleeping on the floor, on mattresses, and it was cold. And a nice male nurse told me that due to the overcrowding, they're dying to release people into the open ward. And I should ask, I'm one of the, I don't know. He said basically, man, you're not supposed to be here, time to leave. They have to let people out. And I thought, okay, yeah, but I don't want to damage the process and blah, blah, blah. He said, get out while you can or they'll forget you in here. And I went to talk to the shrink, the head guy. And there was this whole bullshit scene played out where they were saying, are you sure you're ready? And ta-ta-ta. And I can see the forms are already signed. And I'm playing the same game, da-da-da. And they released me to the open ward. Into the hands of a she-dragon who should not be allowed to take care of ants. Sorry, ants. And then she interviews me, the doctor, and in her first question, she asks me if I know already if my license has been revoked. And I say, what do you mean? And she tells me that the law in Israel states that if you had been driving under a manic attack and under the influence of marijuana as I had, they're obliged to inform whatever agency that deals with it, and my license is to be revoked. And I said, I hope they have not been informed, because my profession is I am a veterinarian and I've been working with horses, and you do that with your car, and there's no way I'd ever be rehabilitated without that. And her reply was, you should have thought of that before. Hire a driver. And that was her therapeutic approach as well in the ward she ran. The ward was much easier. It was open, no electrical doors this time, just a 10 o'clock curfew. The nurses drugging the shit out of you were smiling, chubby, nice ladies. So it was nicer. The ward was right next to the gate, and I remember feeling even more humiliated that I can walk out that door anytime, but I'm not allowed to. And after another 2 weeks in that lovely place, I was told that legally I'm allowed to demand my release, and I did, and was released 48 hours after I demanded. And I went to the north and immediately stopped taking the medication in a gradual way, as I saw would be the best way, but quite fast because I was not willing to be on the poison anymore. And I suffered withdrawal symptoms that you suffer from withdrawal from any drug. And it scared the shit out of me. I didn't know what they'd been giving me. I didn't agree to any of it, of course, but I guess that wasn't an issue. And I tried to schedule a psychiatrist in the north, which was a different province, and I was given a date for 3 months later. And I tried to find some care for myself, and spent a lot of money on useless on people, on the wrong people, and ended up finding myself in the same position that I'd been before, which was if it wasn't me who was going to rehabilitate me, nobody would. And my wife and I went tried to make it in the north for a while, and when the depression hit me hard, and by that time I'd bought a dog and got hooked up with another male dog, two very big dogs that my wife had a lot of trouble dealing with, and my life came crashing on me. And in a desperate Hail Mary, I managed to find homes for these dogs, and we went to my parents' place for some time. And they welcomed us with very open arms and kept us through the cold winter. And then we went north, and when I felt better, we left the country, traveled for some months, and are now here in Portugal. And in the last few days, I've been feeling a need to say something about this for several reasons. Something very long, I guess, but there are so many things that I feel that I would like to say about this on so many levels. The most important would be that I don't believe anybody should be committed against their will for their own good. And if you do, please kindly make the place livable, because we are not criminals, we are patients. And more than that, and more importantly than that, I'm labeled in Israel as a disabled manic depressive. I get 100% disability funds, which is nothing. And I get this lovely label. I even have the card for the bus, which I don't use. I wonder why. And I don't feel disabled. I feel enabled in other ways. And I think we are all enabled in different ways and should be enabled to be us and not prevented from being us. Helped to be us, yes, but I think if somebody isn't asking for your help, don't give it. It's sad, but you're not giving them the help they need. And I think people, doctors, start asking questions from the patients. Ask us. Stop telling us because you don't know. And start asking us. And then maybe you'll learn how to talk to us. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks.